Welcome to Adobe Premiere Pro CC. So, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about just working with the different workspaces. So, for workspaces in Premiere Pro, the entire interface is really built around this idea of workspaces. And you notice along the top bar up here, we have several different interfaces. The first one, assembly. Assembly is really meant to quickly, easily open up pictures, look at them. So see on my source panel here, look at them. And then if I like them, we're just going to drag them quickly right down to my slideshow. The next workspace is editing. And editing is a little bit different. You'll notice I have my source on the left, my program on the right. The program shows my timeline down here. And I have all my different project files here. So editing allows us to make more changes and really opens up editing inside of Premiere Pro. Color comes later. And normally we use color to adjust the different pictures, different videos, things like that. And you notice we have our lumetri scopes, which shows how the colors are being visualized on screen. And we have all our adjustments over here. Effects is when you want to get down to the nitty gritty. So we really want to get down into the keyframes. So we can click on a picture here and we have keyframes and I can start opening the keyframes and changing different things about it. We have audio, which, as it suggests, this is where we're going to work on our audio for our computer. And finally, we have one called graphics, and this is where you can start making your titles and things like that. So one of the things you need to know about Premiere Pro in these workspaces is all these workspaces are fully editable. You can grab things, you can pick them up, you can move them around. So I just moved my program over to my source. I can move it back. So you can fully customize how this is laid out. You can change everything about it. And if you decide later that you don't like this or you want to go back, you just go to Window, Workspaces, and reset the saved layout. Also, if you're making layouts or you've changed everything here, you can save that layout. So you can go to Workspaces and you can save changes to this workspace, or you can actually create your own new workspace. So they've really made it easy in Premiere Pro to customize the entire interface around how you want to work. So we're going to talk about setting up a file in Premiere Pro. So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a folder where we're going to start all our stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to make a new folder on my desktop and I'm going to call it my project. And of course you can put it wherever you want. You can call it whatever you want. And one of the first things I would do, I would go ahead and I would make some new files. So let's change the view. So you're just looking in here. So I'm going to make some new folders in here. So the first one I'm going to make is called audio. I'm going to make another one and we're going to call it exports. We're going to make another one, call it graphics. We're going to make another one, call it images, and we're going to make one more, and we're going to go ahead and call this one video. So as you see, I have my folder set up. I have a few folders set up in there. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to create our new Premiere Pro file. So let's go ahead, let's get Premiere Pro open, and you're going to go ahead and click New Project. And you're going to get a dialog box that is asking you for a name. So this is the name of our project. And so in this case, I'm just going to call it my video. And even more important now, you have a location. So I need to make sure the location points to this folder that I just made. So I'm going to go ahead and click Browse. And for me, this one is on my desktop called my project. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Choose. And I'm going to go ahead and click OK. There's a couple other settings here. If you have different scratch disks set up, you can run those here. You can do some different settings for the images and video, audio, and different capture formats. For right now, these are all fine. You really don't need to worry about any of these, and click OK. And you guys will notice if I go back, you'll see my project, my Premiere Profile has been created. So this is where all my information is now going to be saved. So once I'm in here, we have the workspace as we've talked about before.
And now we're going to start bringing things into my project. So on the bottom left down here, we have my project. So we need to get some files to go ahead and use with this. So let me go back to my folder here, and I have a folder here called images. And I already have images downloaded. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy these images to that folder. So on my desktop, I have a folder called images. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go here to my project. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a new folder in here, or a new what we call bin. So go ahead, click that. We're going to call this bin images. We're going to open it up. And now I'm going to right click and I'm just going to say import. And I'm going to import my images. And here we are, my project, my images. I'm going to go ahead and just click import. So now in Premiere Pro, you guys will notice we have all my images inside my bin. Here's my project. In Premiere Pro now I have a file ready that's going to hold everything, and we've now imported some content in. So I have my images. These images are linked to this folder we set up here. So if I went and deleted one of these images, the folder inside of here wouldn't know where to find that link. So I would have to go ahead and relink that image. So make sure you're very careful with where you're keeping your images or your files and where you're linking them to. If you change something, Premiere Pro won't know how to deal with it. So let's talk about building new sequences inside of Premiere Pro. So previously we made a new project file and we got our project ready. We made a bin called images and we imported our images. Now we need to get a timeline or a sequence over here where we can actually work on these images. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go up here to File, New, and we're going to choose Sequence. Now, a sequence is really a combination of different settings, and if you've been through the training, you'll know it's aspect ratios, pixel aspect ratios, frame sizes, and frame rate. So one of the things we're going to look at first is the aspect ratio. So we're going to keep this in your typical widescreen format that all HD things use. So we're not really going to change anything there. For the pixel aspect ratio, we're going to use the 1.0 or square pixels. We're not shooting any special kind of cameras that have a different ratio, so we're just going to keep that standard. For the frame size, we're going to go ahead and we're going to work in 1080p. And for the frame rate, we're going to go ahead and keep this at 30 frames per second. So this is a real standard file. As you see, we have a lot of different presets here all the way through, and all these, depends on what you're working on as to what you'll really need. One of the ones I tend to always go with is just a digital SLR, because these are always going to be your square pixels. Open up the 1080p folder, and right here we have DSLR 1080p 30. So this is just a good standard one to start with. You can go ahead and click OK, but before we do that, we're going to give our sequence name down here a title. So we're going to go ahead and just call this, my theme is green, so I'm going to call it my green movie. Oops, green movie. There we go. And click OK. So you'll notice as soon as I do that, I now have a sequence here. It showed up inside my project. It's called Green Movie. At the same time, it also opened up here on my timeline. So now I have a sequence that is ready to go, where I can start bringing on different assets and actually making a video. Now, if you ever need to modify a sequence, you go up here to Sequence, Sequence Settings, and here you can see these are all our different sequences. We have our time code, so we could potentially take this up to 60 frames per second. We could change our frame size, our aspect ratio, and lots of other different settings. But for now, we're just going to keep it all. Now that we have a sequence to work on, it's time to start bringing over some images and actually putting them on our timeline. So what we can do, we can expand our bin here, and we can just drag over an image and place it on our timeline. So as you see, we have a frog with an insect on him. and it's kind of zoomed in. I'm going to show you how to fix that here in a minute, but let me just go ahead and orient you on the timeline and how this works. You notice our image right now is very small. You can actually zoom in. So this bar on the bottom allows you to zoom. So if you grab it and move it, we're actually zooming in on our timeline. So this is a quick, easy way to zoom in on your timeline. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so I can see this a little bit better. And right now you can see if we scrub along, we have just over 4.5 seconds of content here. So that is our frog. So one of the first things we're going to do, let's just go ahead and let's just get our frog to actually fit on here. So I am in the editing workspace. And if I go ahead and I click on effect controls, I can bring up all our different effects that we can do here. So we have scale and we have position. For this one, we can go ahead and we can just play with the scale. So over here at scale, there's a scrubby slider. If you just click and drag, notice we can scale that image down. So I'm gonna go ahead and just fill the frame, and there's our image right there. If I want to change position, I can just move these. So if I want to move left and right, there you are. So if I wanted him a little bit more centered, there's my frog ready to go with the bug, and we've kind of scaled or zoomed in on him. So that's one way to do this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring in just the next image here, and I'm going to place it right after, and notice it automatically kind of sticks to the end there. We're going to roll up to the next one. I'm going to click on it, so I'm editing this one. And this time, instead of using position and scale, I can load up handles around the image like you're used to for other programs. So by clicking this, I've loaded handles. However, being that this image is bigger, I actually have to zoom out. So in this case, I'm going to go down to like 25%. And here you can actually see my handles at the end. So I'm going to click, drag, and kind of make this one a little bit smaller so it fits a little bit better. Now, if you want to jump, so some different tricks for jumping around the timeline. If I want to jump to the end of the clip, I just click the down arrow. If I want to jump to the beginning of the clip, I click the up arrow. So let's go ahead and let's jump to our assembly workspace. And let's put this together. And assembly kind of changes our view, and especially working with images, what we can do is we can open our bin here. I can get my image number 3, and down here I'm going to go ahead and click click on my timeline and go ahead and click the down arrow. And we can go ahead and bring in this third image here. Let's see. And we can drop them right on there. So there's my third image. And again, if you need to scale him, you'd have to go over to your editing workspace and click on him. And we can scale him down. So that's looking better. Let me go ahead and fit this just so you guys can get a better view. So right now we're just adding in different images. Now there are other ways to do it too. So let me go ahead, get to the end of that timeline. So let's see. For the rest of the pictures, I'm actually going to select them all and right click, and I can actually choose, oops. Yep, there it is, under clip. I can choose to automate to sequence. And let me go ahead and click this and show you what it does. So we're going to do it by selection order. Sequentially, we're going to overwrite. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click OK. And it's actually going to take the rest of these and it's going to automatically put them on our sequence. And it actually added a default transition when we did that. And I'm going to talk about transitions here in a minute. So what you would need to do for each one of these, you need to go through and adjust the scale of them. So I'm going to let you guys do that, and my next file, I will just have that done. Now that we have all our images in and ready, and I've gone ahead and I scaled mine like I said, now it's time to really look at the order. We could have done the order before we did this, but I'm going to go ahead and just reorder a few things now. So this last image here, this is where I'm actually going to put my title. So I'm just going to pick it up and I'm going to move it to the back. And if you notice when I do that, that leaves me a hole here. So we have to deal with this hole. So what you can do real easily is you can click, and if you notice, Premiere Pro actually selects that blank space. And if I right click, I can tell it just to ripple delete. And what ripple delete does, you'll see it here. It removes that blank space and it moves our stuff forward. So right now would be the time where maybe you might want to reorder some stuff. And I don't really have a specific order, but let's just say I wanted to switch the order of a few of these. You can actually select multiple items by clicking and dragging, and I can just move them apart. And let's see, maybe we're going to take this image and we're going to move this image up here. Maybe we're going to take this image and we're going to move him back here. So if you notice, I have a few holes, and all I have to do now is come back and just tell these to ripple delete. Now, something that happened before, and I'll show you here in a second, we have some transitions. If you notice that nice fade between them. So we're going to go ahead now that we have it in order, and we can add some transitions in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in a little bit more on my timeline. And I'm going to come over here, and in our effects, we can go ahead. Let's see, we're in editing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move over to the effects workspace. We can go ahead, and if you notice on the right over here, we have our different effects. So we are going to do transitions. So these are all your different video transitions, and all a transition does is it transitions from one shot, one image to the next image. So it's just a way of making a nice transition or make it look nice. So kind of the standard one everyone uses is a cross dissolve. So if we just grab this effect and drag it between the two, notice it'll nicely dissolve between our two items. If you click on this transition, which is the little yellow guy here, you actually get some settings. You can choose where the transition aligns, and you can kind of control how long. So the standard is kind of 1 second. So you don't have to use cross dissolve though. You could do something like a morph cut, and you could put a morph cut there. And right now it's looking at it, it's going to try to morph between the two. And it's a really fun effect when it works. And I'll be honest, I've never tried it between these two images. So let's just see what, if anything, comes out of it. So we're going to let that be for a minute. We're going to go down here to the next one. And you could do, like a page peel. And a page peel is just going to make it look like you're peeling from one page to the next. And again, you can check your settings. You could show actual sources, which just gives you a preview what the two look like. You can reverse it. So again, these are all just little creative things that you can pull on. There's some fun zoom effects. I've always liked the cross zoom. I think that's a nice effect for moving between items. So there's your cross zoom effect. So transitions are something really easy to put through, and really they're used as a storytelling element if you need to transition from one story to another or from one place to another. But they're just really easy to put on. So you just drag them between, and you can do your different settings there. The morph is going to take a while. We're not going to wait for that. So anyways, go ahead and just load up your sequence with some good transitions. And then after this, we'll actually start animating stuff. So now it's time to start talking about keyframes and actually building an animation. So all a keyframe is it's just setting an object state. In this case, our object is our image, and we're going to use different states. So the state might be the size, and we're going to set 2 keyframes. So we're going to have it be one size at one keyframe and a different size at another keyframe. And what's going to happen is Premiere Pro is going to animate between the 2 keyframes. Now, it's one thing for me to say it, but it's another thing to actually see it done. So we're going to just go over a few basic things. So we're going to start on my timeline, and we're going to work with our butterfly frog here. So one of the first shots that we are going to do, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a zoom in on my frog. So what we're going to do, make sure you're starting at the beginning of your timeline and you have your image selected. And over here, I'm on my effects workspace and I have my effect control up. So if we're going to zoom in to the frog, we're going to deal with what's called scale. So first, to start keyframes, you got to click the little clock icon, the toggle animation. So go ahead and click that. And when you do that, you guys will notice right here where my mouse is, a keyframe was created. If I roll into the future here, so we're going to go to the very end of the clip, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click this. I'm going to add a keyframe. So now I have two keyframes, a keyframe in the beginning and a keyframe in the end. And yes, you're seeing part of my dissolve, but that's perfectly fine. So I can use these buttons. I can go to my first keyframe or my last one. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually zoom in to the frog. So for my scale, I'm going to go to the end and I'm just going to scale up. So you'll notice right now I am looking at my frog's eyeball. Now as I move my slider back and forth here, you're going to notice we are slowly zooming between those two positions. And you can watch your number here and you can see how it's working. So all a keyframe does is it defines a state in one place and it defines a state in another, and Premiere Pro automatically tweens or changes the image between those two positions. Now, it can get more advanced than that. You can do different easings and things like that, but for now, just the basic concept is you set a keyframe and you zoom in. Now, one of the things about my zoom here, you'll notice he's not in the middle. And that's okay, but we can fix that as well. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back to the very beginning, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn on my position animation as well. So go ahead and turn on that animation, and I'm going to jump to my end keyframe, and I'm going to go ahead and add a new position keyframe. And I'm going to move him because I want his eyeball more in the middle, the bug more in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just change his position. So now that my frog is more in the middle, maybe I want to bring him down a little bit because I really want to emphasize that bug on him as well. So now let's go ahead and move our slider back. So there, we've created a quick, easy animation, and you see that's how you do it. You just roll it right between them. And if you want to see it play, you just click play, and that's our nice little animation happening there. Now for the next one, we'll do something a little bit different. So at the very first keyframe, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make an animation. I'm going to make this animation a rotation this time. So I'm going to go ahead and click rotation. I'm going to roll into the future, and I'm going to add another rotation keyframe. And at this keyframe, we can go ahead and we can rotate it some. Now you'll notice we might actually want to do a zoom or a scale effect as well. So maybe we're going to scale. It's kind of easier without transitions, and you might want to go, I'm going to add another keyframe here. You might want to go back and take off your transitions and add them later. But either way, you guys can see we're going to rotate it, and I'm going to scale in as I rotate it. So on this one right here, I'm going to go ahead and just scale in nice and far there. And let's see how this one looks. See how it's nicely scaling. And there you go. So let's go ahead and let's hit play. So you can see there's our frog. We're zooming in. Then we're going to transition to my next shot where he's going to kind of zoom in to bring us into the frame. So maybe on this next shot, maybe we want to do a different kind of effect. So we've done the zoom, the scale, the rotation, but you can also just play with position itself. So maybe let's go to the very beginning of this one and let's just do position. Let's go to the end of this one and we'll do another position keyframe. And maybe you want to do like a panning shot or a shot where it goes side to side. So if we started our first keyframe, maybe we'll move them all the way to the right. Go to our next keyframe. Move them to the other side. Maybe our scale, just so this works a little better. We'll scale in a little bit, and then we'll just kind of play with the positions of them. Put them all the way over like that. So there you go. See, so we just did a simple, what we call a pan, where it moves straight across the screen. So you can do whatever you want with these keyframes, and it doesn't have to be just 2 keyframes. You could actually do a 3rd keyframe, and you can have it move down at that keyframe. So you notice now the image is going to move down and back up. So it actually has a U effect happening. So it is really up to you and how you want to do it. And you can get as creative as you want. You can also play with these keyframes and you can move them around. You can erase them. So just by clicking there, I erase it. If I go to this keyframe, I can erase it. So you have a lot of latitude in what you want to do. You can also play with things like opacity. And that way you could make this. So if we want to add a keyframe here, maybe one here, you can actually take and you could make him so he is less opaque. So between these 2 keyframes, he's going to start to go away. So really, it's just up to your imagination and what you want to do. So here's the storytelling part. How are you going to transition between these different images to kind of tell a story so it feels well? So your job now is really to animate and try to tell a story between your images and make it work for each different image. All right, so we're going to go ahead now and we're going to add in some audio, and we're also going to bring in a rolling credit title. So we're really going to kind of finish off this project. So a few small things. I have gone through and adjusted my animation, and it's kind of the way I want. Right now I have it running at 20 seconds. The original I had at 15, but 20 seconds is fine. So one of the first things I'm going to do, this last slide, and I'll play it right up to the end here, you'll notice I have it kind of coming around, showing the snakes, and then it just stops. I was going to put the theme word that I'm using right here. So what I'm going to show you is you can actually use items made in other programs. So in Illustrator, I typed out the word green, and then I created a mask and put the image in the background. And one of the neat things I can do, I can actually import this file into Premiere Pro. So let me go back to Premiere Pro. We can make a new bin over here and we can call it graphics, because this would be a graphic. And inside graphics, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to import this file. And it's right here. It's just called title. And I can go ahead and drag it on my timeline. Now, notice where I'm putting it. I'm putting it on video track 2. Because I want it to overlay on top of what I have there. Now, you're not seeing it right now because it's actually hidden, so we're going to have to modify a few small things. So one of the things we're going to do to this background image, I want it to be just a little bit darker. So a real easy way to make this background image just a little bit darker, go to your color effects. And right here you notice on the right our Lumetri panel or Lumetri color panel shows up, and it gives us a lot of options. In this case, I'm going to do a basic correction, and I am just going to turn the exposure down a little bit. And see, as I start to turn that down, you can start to see my letters, and I'll be honest, I think I want the other way around. I think I want my title to be a little bit darker. There we go. Just like that. So it's there, but not really noticeable. So quick, easy, you can make quick color adjustments using the Lumetri color panel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim my title right there. So now when it comes in, boom, there's the word green. So now at the end here, we're going to go ahead and we are going to, wait, before we do the title, we're going to go ahead and do the audio. So along with this, I also have an audio track. Now this audio track, let me find my panel here. Here it is. This audio track is one that I got from the Adobe Audition content. You can download it from the Adobe website. And so what we're going to do is we are going to bring in our audio. So I'm going to make a new bin here. I'm going to call it audio. And it's a good habit to make, getting used to doing all these bins, because it just helps make your life organized. Right now we're doing a small project. When you get a lot of stuff, it's really nice to have it kind of put in the correct place. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to drag and drop my audio file right into that bin. It's going to import it. And now we can drag it over to the audio timeline. If you notice, it is longer than my entire slideshow, and that's okay. We're going to trim it after we do our title. So let's go ahead. Let's go to this very end part, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to insert our title. So I'm going to go to the graphics workspace this time, and I'm going to go ahead. I have a Word document here. I have a Word document here that already has all my information. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy my information. Let me move this off. And what we're going to do, we are going to make a brand new text document right here, text. And I'm going to go ahead and just click and drag. And there's a text frame. And I'm going to go ahead and just paste. And now my information is here. So now, with this selected, we can go over here, and if you notice, we have a ton of different options. We can adjust size, we can adjust color, things like that. For right now, I'm going to leave it as a standard one, and I'm going to show you how to make this roll. And what roll means is it actually goes up and down your screen, because right now, let me mute that. Right now, it just shows as a static text object. It's not moving. So we're going to make this one go ahead and roll. So to roll it, you click off your text up here, and here is our options for our text piece here. Right here is roll, and we can control the duration. So I'm going to go ahead and just click roll, and let me show you what happens. If you notice, we get a bar here, and it shows our text rolling up and down just like that. But if you notice, I am missing some of my sources. I had more sources than what are shown. So this is one of these items that you need to make sure you come back in and you edit your text box. See how my box is actually longer? So I need to make sure to pull my box. There we go. That's the end of this. So now we have a rolling title. And when I click play, so we have a problem here, and I'm sure you guys are saying, well, that's really fast. There's no way I could read that. So what if I wanted to slow it down? So to slow it down, you would do something like this. You would drag it and just drag it out longer. So the length of this determines the speed of your roll. So that's a little bit better. You might take it out a little bit more, maybe out to 28 seconds. That's not too bad. So now we've added audio, we've added another title, we've added a rolling title. So now the last thing we really want to do is kind of trim our audio here. So we could let it play out, and then we're going to go out to 34 seconds. Or if you want to trim it up further, you can pull it up, and then you just need to find an effect. We can go into the audio workspace, but really we're just trying to find an effect. So sometimes I find the editing one is easier. And let's go search for our effect. So we're going to go to audio effects, and we are going to find, give me a second to find which one here. You could do a volume effect if you want. And you can keyframe it, so we can come here and we can do a level keyframe. We can go up here, add another one, and of course at the very end we're just going to turn the levels all the way down So now if I did that correctly, there you go. We've just faded out sound. Now there are other ways to do it using a rubber band here, but that's something I would show a little bit later. So quickly, easily, we now have a 28-second animation that we can run through real quick. So we've done keyframes, we brought in all our images, I've showed you guys how to animate. We've put music and sound to this. You notice I'm kind of speeding it up as we go. We brought in an Illustrator title. And at the end we have a rolling set of credits, and the music will fade out at the very end. And that's it. So now that we have our finished movie, it's time to finish this out and just export a final file. So I've gone over several different file types, but really the way to get stuff out of here is pretty easy. So what you want to make sure first is you have the movie you want selected, or the sequence you want exported, selected and ready to go. So in this case, I'm calling it the green movie. And all you're going to do is go File, Export, and Media. And this is going to bring up the export dialog box. Whoops, wrong screen. We'll bring it over here. So in this dialog box, there's a lot of different settings happening, and a lot of these are very specific to the use. So I'm going to just work on teaching you guys what it takes to get something out of here and onto YouTube or something like that. So one of the first things for output settings is you got to choose the format. Now again, tons of different formats. It really depends on where you're going. For most everything you're going to do, you'll find the H.264 codec is probably the one you really want to use. And then underneath here, there are tons of presets. So I often use just match source, high bit rate, or medium bit rate, depending on what I'm doing. If you're going straight to Vimeo, here's a Vimeo one. Going to YouTube, here are YouTube ones. So these are all your different settings. For me right now, I'm going to go ahead and just choose match source, high bit rate. And all my settings here are kind of already set up. If you need to make a change, this is where you make a change. It's telling you where you're saving it. So right now, this is my output name. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to put this on our file, which is on my desktop, my project, and I have that folder called export. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose it. So now I know it's going to save it as green movie. It's going to have match source, high bit rate. Now down here, I get two choices. I can just export it, and if I export it right now, it's going to go ahead and just make a file for me, and done. I'll be ready to go. The other choice is what's called Q, and Q is kind of interesting. Q opens up another program called Adobe Media Encoder, and it's opening up on my other screen. I'll move it over here in a second. Here we go. There we go. So let me bring it on over. So this is a separate running program. It's called Adobe Media Encoder. Now the neat thing about Adobe Media Encoder, it is a queue, which means we can put things in a line here, and that way we actually have time to, where we can choose what time we're going to render, because it takes a lot of computing power to render out these videos. So if I was going to render out this video, or if I had a bunch more, they would stack here. And then when I'm ready, I just hit play. And it's going to run my queue. And now down here you see it's actually doing my video. I get a good little preview. So we're just going to wait here a couple seconds. And my computer right now is thinking about its processing, is taking all our images and putting them together to make a final file. Now, this is 30 seconds of animation. It's going to take us almost 30 seconds to make it. So you can imagine if you're doing a big conference video or something like that, how much longer this would actually take. So my final video is now, there we go. Now right here under exports, and you guys see this is my final video, which I can just play there for now. And that gives you an idea. So that is how you get a movie out of here.